Commander Nadia Chun wiped blood from her forehead as emergency lights pulsed through the smoke-filled cockpit. The scout ship's systems flickered and died around her, leaving only the dim glow of auxiliary power. Outside the cracked viewport, the purple-tinged atmosphere of Veritas swirled with toxic particulates, a beautiful death waiting to claim her. Mayday, Mayday. Scout vessel Horizon requesting emergency extraction from Veritas Sector 9. Systems critical. Repeat, systems critical. Nadia's voice remained steady despite the panic rising in her chest. The communication array sparked, and silence answered her call. The mission had been straightforward. Map the mineral deposits in this unexplored region of Veritas for possible extraction. What the briefing hadn't mentioned were the gravitational anomalies that had torn her ship apart on entry, sending her spiraling into the planet's surface. She checked her oxygen levels, 8 hours remaining. Not nearly enough to wait for rescue, especially when no one knew where to look. Nadia strapped on her exosuit and grabbed her emergency kit. The ship's damage assessment was grim. Primary power core fried, navigation systems offline, and hull integrity compromised in 3 sections. She'd need replacement parts that didn't exist on this barren world. The landscape outside was jagged and unwelcoming, rock formations jutting like teeth from the purple soil. Veritas had been abandoned by the mining corporations decades ago, after the discovery of toxic elements that rendered the atmosphere gradually poisonous to humans. The suits provided protection, but only temporarily. 2 miles from her crash site, Nadia discovered the remnants of an old mining outpost, its structures half buried in purple sand. Hope flickered briefly. Perhaps there would be salvageable parts inside. The main doors had been sealed, but something had pried them open recently. She traced the strange markings along the edge with her gloved fingertips. "Someone's been here," she whispered to herself. Drawing her standard-issue pulse pistol, the interior was dark, but surprisingly intact. Nadia activated her helmet light, revealing abandoned equipment and empty storage containers. As she moved deeper into the facility, a soft scraping sound echoed from a side corridor. She froze, weapon raised. "I know someone's there," she called out. "I'm not here to harm you." Silence, then a small voice. "You promise?" A child stepped into the light, skin the color of pale moonlight with subtle iridescent patterns that shifted across the surface. Large, silver-flecked eyes studied Nadia cautiously. Despite the alien features, the fear in those eyes was unmistakably familiar. "My name is Thela," the child said, clutching what appeared to be a mining tool reconfigured as a weapon. "Are you going to take us away? Us?" Nadia lowered her weapon slowly. 2 more figures emerged from the shadows. Another child, smaller than the first, but with the same moonlight skin, and behind them, an adult figure wrapped in tattered clothing. The woman Nadia assumed it was female from the swollen belly visible beneath the wrappings, leaned heavily against the wall, breathing labored. "She's hurt," Nadia said, holstering her weapon and moving forward. The first child stepped between them. "Stop. Humans hurt us before. I'm not like them. I'm a scout, not a hunter." Nadia removed her helmet, a gesture of trust. "My name is Commander Nadia Chun. My ship crashed, and I need parts to repair it." "We have parts," the younger child offered, earning a sharp look from the older sibling. "Core, be quiet." The pregnant woman slumped further, a soft moan escaping her lips. Nadia moved forward, despite the children's protests, and caught her before she fell. "She's burning with fever," Nadia said, her medical training kicking in. "How long has she been like this?" "Since the dust storm 3 days ago," Thela admitted reluctantly. "Our ship was damaged in the landing. Mother protected us from the guards, but they wounded her. The baby comes too soon." Nadia looked between the frightened children and their ailing mother. Protocol demanded she report any non-human encounters immediately. But there was no one to report to, and a life hung in the balance. "I have medical supplies in my ship," she said finally, "and my life support systems are still functioning. If you help me repair my engines, I can help your mother." Thela studied her, silver eyes unblinking. "If we fix your ship, will you take us from here? Mother says the air is killing her baby." "Yes," Nadia promised, not entirely sure how she would explain 3 alien refugees when she returned to base. "Together, we'll find a way off this planet." The older child extended a slender hand. "Then we have agreement, Commander Nadia-chun." As they shook hands, Nadia noticed that the child's skin emitted a faint luminescence where they touched almost as if responding to her. Outside, the winds of Veritas howled a warning of the coming night. They had hours at most to salvage what they needed before the truly toxic elements rose from the planets. Core with the setting of its distant sun. Time was running. Out for all of them the toxic winds of Veritas. Clawed at their exosuits as Nadia and Thela trudged across the purple landscape, dragging a makeshift sled loaded with salvaged parts. Inside the abandoned mining facility, Core remained with their mother Lyria, who drifted in and out of consciousness, her silvery skin now dull with illness. "The fever worsens," Thela said, her voice small against the howling wind. "Among my people, the Seleni, pregnancy is sacred but dangerous. The child forms a psychic bond with the mother in the final phase." "If she dies?" "She won't," Nadia interrupted, more firmly than she intended. "We'll get these parts back, repair my ship's life support, and stabilize her condition." Thela's large eyes studied Nadia with ancient wisdom that belied her youth. "Why do you help us? Your kind hunted ours when they discovered us hiding in the crystal mines." Nadia considered the question as they approached her damaged scout ship, the Horizon. Its sleek hull was now scarred and bent, emergency lights blinking weakly through shattered viewports. "Not all humans are the same," she finally answered. "Just as I imagine, not all Seleni are the same." Inside the ship, they worked quickly to integrate the salvaged components. Nadia was surprised by Thela's technical knowledge. The child understood systems that had taken Nadia years to master at the academy. As they worked, she learned more about their situation. "Mother was a keeper of archives on our homeworld," Thela explained, her delicate fingers splicing complex circuitry with surprising precision. "When the mining corporation discovered our settlement, they destroyed everything, looking for the crystal matrices that hold our ancestral memories." "Why would they want those?" "Because they contain the locations of planets rich with resources. Planets our ancestors visited thousands of years ago, including yours." Nadia paused in her work. "Your people visited Earth? Long before your recorded history. We were guardians of a sort." Thela's voice held a note of pride. "Mother says we watched over early humans, protecting them from threats they couldn't understand." As they spoke, Nadia noticed something unusual happening to the ship's systems. Where Thela's hands touched the control panels, the screens flickered with symbols Nadia had never seen before. The damage seemed to be repairing itself at an accelerated rate. "How are you doing that?" Nadia asked, watching in amazement. Thela looked confused. "Doing what?" "The systems they're responding to you." The child's expression shifted from confusion to understanding. "Ah, the resonance. Our bodies produce natural electromagnetic fields that interface with technology. Mother says it was why we were chosen as keepers." By nightfall, they had restored basic life support and heating to the ship. Nadia helped Thela return to the mining facility to retrieve Lyria and Core. The pregnant woman was barely conscious, her breathing shallow. "We need to move her now," Nadia said, activating her emergency medical scanner. "Her vital signs are deteriorating." Together, they carried Lyria to the ship and placed her in Nadia's sleeping quarters. The medical systems immediately began monitoring her condition, but the readings fluctuated wildly. "Your equipment doesn't understand Seleni physiology," Thilla explained. "Mother needs crystal resonance to stabilize the connection with the baby." Kor, who had been silent until now, opened a small pouch hanging from his neck. Inside was a fragment of translucent crystal that glowed with inner light. "Last piece from home," he whispered, placing it gently on his mother's swollen belly. The crystal pulsed in rhythm with Lyria's breathing, and slowly her color began to improve. The ship's systems responded, 2 power levels rising, damaged circuits regenerating where the crystal's light touched them. That night, as the children slept curled beside their mother, Nadia recorded her findings in her personal log, being careful to omit any official mention of the refugees. Something about their story resonated with her, an outcast herself, among her peers for questioning the ruthless expansion policies of the United Earth Coalition. "They call themselves keepers," she whispered into her recorder, "and I believe they may hold the key to understanding our own history." A soft voice startled her. "You are not like the others." Lyria was awake, her eyes brighter, now fixed on Nadia. "How do you feel?" Nadia asked, moving to check her vital signs. "Better, thanks to you." Lyria's voice was melodic, with an accent that made standard language sound like poetry. "The children trust you. Thila especially. She's remarkable. So knowledgeable for one so young." Lyria smiled faintly. "Among our people, knowledge is passed through bloodlines. She carries my memories of engineering, just as I carried my mother's. And the baby? The baby carries something even more precious." Lyria placed a hand on her belly. "The complete genetic memory of our people's relationship with humans. A code that could bridge our worlds again." Before Nadia could ask more questions, the ship's proximity alarm blared. On the external cameras, a figure approached through the toxic fog tall and lean like Lyria, but clad in armor that seemed to shift colors with the landscape. "Chev," Lyria whispered, relief in her voice. "My bondmate. There are more of you?" Nadia felt a mix of concern and hope. "He is a scout, sent to find safe passage off-world. And now," Lyria's eyes met Nadia's with intensity, "now he has found you, Commander. The one human who might understand what we offer." As Nadia opened the airlock to admit the newcomer, she felt a strange certainty that her life's trajectory had just changed irrevocably. The figure removed his helmet, revealing features similar to Lyria's, but stronger, more defined. His eyes locked with Nadia's, and an unexpected jolt of recognition passed between them, as if they had met in some distant past. "You have protected my family," he said, his deep voice resonating through the ship. "The keepers do not forget such deaths." Outside, the winds of Veradis shifted, carrying new dangers toward their fragile sanctuary. The repairs were incomplete, and now there was another passenger to consider. But as Nadia watched the reunion between Jev and his family, she knew with certainty that protocol no longer mattered. These people, these Seleni, had awakened something in her that had been dormant for too long. A sense of purpose beyond orders. A sense of home beyond Earth. The atmospheric sensors on the horizon shrieked a warning as the first particles of the storm front hit the ship's hull. Nadia studied the readouts with growing concern. This wasn't an ordinary toxic wind pattern. The scanner showed massive electrical discharges and concentration of corrosive elements that would eat through their outer shielding within hours. "We can't stay here," she announced to the others. "The storm will damage the ship beyond repair." Jev, who had spent the morning inspecting their progress, nodded in agreement. "There are deeper caverns beneath the mining facility. My people used them as hibernation chambers during previous expeditions to this world. They should shield us until the storm passes." In the hours since his arrival, Nadia had observed the quiet strength with which Jev carried himself. Unlike Lyria's ethereal presence, he was solid, practical, a warrior and survivor. The intricate patterns that shimmered across his skin seemed to pulse whenever he spoke of protecting his family. Lyria shouldn't be moved, Nadia countered, glancing toward the sleeping quarters where the pregnant woman rested. The trip could accelerate her labor. The trip will be difficult, Jev agreed, but staying means certain death. His silver eyes held Nadia's gaze. I have carried her through worse, Commander. They prepared quickly, salvaging what supplies they could carry. Thala and Kor helped pack medical equipment while Nadia downloaded the ship's navigation data onto a portable unit. If they couldn't return to the horizon, they'd need alternative coordinates to signal for rescue, assuming she could repair the communications array. Outside, the purple sky had darkened to a bruised indigo, lightning arcing between cloud formations and patterns Nadia had never seen in natural weather. Jev carried Lyria, wrapped in thermal blankets, her eyes closed but her breathing steady. The crystal fragments still pulsed against her skin, seemingly stronger now. Stay close, Nadia instructed the children, securing their exosuit helmets. The wind will try to separate us. The journey to the mining facility was harrowing. Twice, violent gusts nearly lifted Thala from the ground, saved only by Nadia's quick reflexes. The toxic particles abraded their suits, warning indicators flashing as filtration systems struggled to compensate. By the time they reached the entrance, visibility had dropped to mere feet. Inside, Jev led them past the areas Nadia had previously explored, into corridors that bore marks of more ancient construction. The walls here were embedded with the same crystalline material as the fragment core carried. Our ancestors mined this world long before humans discovered it, Jev explained as they descended. The crystals grow only in the presence of certain energies our bodies produce naturally. Is that why the mining corporation wanted this planet? Nadia asked, helping Thala navigate a particularly steep section. One reason? Jev's voice hardened. The crystals also amplify technological capabilities beyond your science's understanding. A single shard can power a city for decades. They reached a chamber deep beneath the surface, its walls pulsing with soft blue light. Ancient glyphs covered the ceiling in spiraling patterns. And at the center stood a raised platform that resembled an altar. The keeping chamber, Thala whispered with reverence. Jev laid Lyria gently upon the platform. Immediately, the crystals surrounding them brightened, bathing her in azure light. Her breathing deepened, color returning to her features. The chamber recognizes her bloodline, Jev explained. It will help stabilize her condition. While the children set up a small camp, Nadia worked on the communications array, hoping to boost its signal strength using the crystal energies. Jev joined her, his knowledge of the ancient technology proving invaluable. You are not what I expected, he said after they had worked in companionable silence for some time. What did you expect? Nadia asked, curious. The humans who discovered our settlement were cruel. Efficient, but cruel. His fingers brushed against hers as they adjusted a connection, sending an unexpected warmth through her body. You show compassion. It is remembered in our histories that humans once possessed this quality in abundance. Above them, the storm raged with increasing intensity. Occasional tremors shook dust from the ancient ceiling. During one particularly violent shake, Nadia lost her footing. Jev caught her, his strong arms steadying her against his chest. The contact sent a surge of images through her mind stars, seen from unfamiliar angles. Vast crystal cities, and faces that somehow felt known to her, despite their alienness. What was that? She gasped, pulling away. The resonance, Jev said softly. Sometimes it bridges minds, as well as technology. I apologize. I should have warned you. No, it's... Nadia struggled to find words. It was beautiful. That night, as the children slept and Lyria rested under the chamber's healing light. Nadia and Jev sat together, sharing stories of their worlds. He told her of the Selenai's gradual retreat from the cosmos as humans expanded their reach, choosing to preserve their knowledge rather than risk conflict. "We were there when your first civilizations arose," he said. "Our ancestors walked among yours, guiding them toward the stars. If that's true, why did your people leave?" Jev's expression darkened. "A schism. Some Selenai believed humans should be controlled, their aggressive tendencies curbed. Others, like my family line, saw potential for cooperation. The debate fractured our society. Those who believed in partnership went into hiding, preserving the old ways. And now?" Nadia asked. "Now we are few, scattered. Lyria's child will be among the last pure-blooded Selenai born." His voice carried centuries of sorrow. "Unless something changes." As he spoke, Nadia felt herself drawn to him in ways that transcended physical attraction. It was as though some ancient recognition stirred within her DNA, a cellular memory of two peoples who had once been allies. Perhaps even more. "The storm is getting worse," Jev noted, rising to check the chamber's structural integrity. As he moved, his hand brushed hers again, and this time she didn't pull away. Their fingers intertwined briefly, the luminescence of his skin brightening at the contact. "When I touch you," he said hesitantly, "the resonance is stronger than I've experienced with any human. As if ... As if what?" "As if your genetic code carries traces of our connection." His eyes studied her with new interest. "Commander Nadia Chun, I believe you may be more important to our people's futures than either of us realized." Before she could respond, Lyria cried out from the platform, her body arching in pain. The crystal at her belly pulsed rapidly, its light changing from blue to an urgent white. "The baby," Jev said, rushing to his bondmate's side. "It's coming." Nadia followed, medical kit in hand, as a new tremor shook the chamber. This one wasn't from the storm. On the ceiling, the ancient glyphs began to rotate, responding to something in Lyria's changing condition. The chamber itself seemed to be awakening Dot, and with it, secrets buried for millennia were stirring back to life. The ancient chamber pulsed with energy as Lyria's labor intensified. Crystal formations along the walls brightened and dimmed in rhythm with her contractions, casting oscillating shadows across their faces. Nadia checked her medical scanner, but the readings made little sense. Energy patterns she'd never encountered interfered with the equipment. "The baby is coming too early," Nadia said, administering a stabilizing agent from her kit. "How long is Selenai gestation normally?" 11 lunar cycles, Jev replied, holding Lyria's hand. The connection between them was visible, a faint luminescence that flowed from his skin to hers. "She's barely reached the 9th. Thala and Kor huddled nearby, their young faces etched with worry. The chamber shuddered again, more violently this time. "That's not the storm," Nadia realized, checking the structural integrity scanner. "Something's happening beneath us." Jev's expression turned grave. "The chamber is responding to the imminent birth. It hasn't witnessed a keeper's birth in centuries. The energies are ... unstable." A section of the crystalline ceiling cracked, sending fragments showering down around them. Nadia shielded the children, while Jev protected Lyria with his body. "We can't stay here," Nadia decided. "The whole structure could collapse." "And we cannot move her," Jev countered. "Not now." Another tremor, stronger than the last, made the decision for them. A large fissure opened in the chamber floor, revealing ancient machinery pulsing with the same energy as the crystals. "The geothermal taps are reactivating," Thala whispered in awe. The legend spoke of this, the Chamber of Ascension, awakening for a royal birth. Royal? Nadia glanced at Lyria, whose face contorted with another contraction. "Not as you understand the term," Jev explained quickly. Lyria carries the complete genetic memory of our people, a once-in-7 generations occurrence. The child will be a repository keeper. The floor continued to split, forcing them to move Lyria onto a section of stable ground. As they did, the machinery beneath the chamber hummed louder, and a sudden pulse of energy shot through the room. The crystal fragment on Lyria's belly shattered, its energy dispersing into her body. "We need to get back to the ship," Nadia insisted. "Now." Working together, they fashioned a stretcher from supplies in Nadia's pack and began the treacherous journey back to the surface. The mining facility was barely recognizable. Crystal formations erupted through floors and walls, growing at impossible speeds. The path they had taken earlier was now blocked by a massive crystalline structure. "There's another way," Kor said unexpectedly. "I saw it in the old memories. When I touched the wall earlier." The boy led them through a series of narrow passages that seemed to shift and change as they moved, eventually emerging near the surface. Outside, the storm had intensified beyond anything Nadia had witnessed on any planet. The purple sky now swirled with bands of green and blue energy, while the ground beneath them trembled continuously. Through breaks in the toxic clouds, she could see the horizon in the distance, its hull now partially encased in crystal formations that grew from the ground. "The resonance is spreading," Jev shouted over the howling wind. "The planet is remembering its purpose." They struggled across the landscape, Lyria moaning with increasing frequency. When they finally reached the ship, Nadia was shocked to find the damaged, nearly repaired crystal structures had integrated with the hull, somehow regenerating the broken systems. "It's adapting your technology," Thiele explained as they carried Lyria aboard. "The resonance seeks compatible matrices." Inside, the ship's systems activated automatically, displays coming online with a mixture of standard human interface and glowing selenite glyphs. Nadia guided them to the medical bay, where they laid Lyria on the examination table. The ship's diagnostic systems immediately connected with her, displays showing the position of the baby. "She's fully dilated," Nadia announced. "The baby is coming now." What followed was a blur of activity. Nadia's medical training took over as she guided Lyria through the delivery, Jev providing strength through their bond, the children assisting with supplies. Outside, the storm reached its crescendo, the ship rocking violently despite its new crystalline reinforcements. "The atmospheric pressure is dropping," Nadia noted, checking the external sensors. "The storm's pulling oxygen from the surface. If we stay, we'll suffocate once our reserves are depleted." "We cannot move her mid-birth," Jed insisted. "We may not have a choice." Nadia made a decision. "We need to launch, now." She rushed to the cockpit, where the integrated crystal technology had transformed her control systems. Intuitive interfaces responded to her thoughts almost before her hands touched them. The engines came online with a harmonic hum rather than their usual roar. "Hold on," she called back to the others as she initiated launch sequence. The ship shuddered, then broke free of the crystal formations anchoring it to the surface. They ascended through the storm, lightning striking the hull, but dissipating harmlessly through the crystalline network dot in the medical bay. Lyria's cries reached a crescendo. Nadia set the ship on automatic ascent and rushed back to assist with the berth. As they broke through Veritas's atmosphere into the star-flecked darkness of space, Lyria gave one final push. The baby emerged in a flash of light that momentarily blinded them all. When Nadia's vision cleared, she saw Jev holding a tiny, perfect being whose skin glowed with patterns more intricate than any she had seen on the adult Selenai. "A daughter," he whispered in wonder. "A keeper is born." The newborn's first cry resonated through the ship, and every system responded, lights brightening, engines accelerating, navigation plotting courses to stars that weren't in any human database. The displays filled with information in the ancient Selenai script, star charts and coordinates appearing faster than Nadia could process. "What's happening?" she asked, watching in amazement as the ship's capabilities expanded exponentially. "The repository is connecting," Thela explained, her young face alight with joy. "The baby carries activation codes in her genetic structure. She's awakening the old network's communication systems that have been dormant for millennia." Through the view screen, Nadia saw something impossible. The empty space ahead of them shimmered, revealing a hidden way station embedded in an asteroid field. Its architecture was clearly Selenite in origin, with the same crystalline structures they had seen on Veridis. "A sanctuary outpost," Jeff said, coming to stand beside Nadia, the newborn cradled in his arms. "One of many scattered throughout this sector, hidden from human detection. Until now," Nadia said, understanding nodding. "Until you," Jeff corrected. He placed his free hand on hers as she gripped the control panel. "Your genetic structure contains markers from the first human Selenite collaborations. The ship recognized you as much as it recognized my daughter." The baby stirred in his arms, tiny fingers reaching toward Nadia. When they touched her skin, Nadia gasped as images flooded her mind earth as seen from ancient times. Selenite guardians walking among early human civilizations, knowledge exchanges, genetic partnerships, and finally, a schism that tore the alliance apart. "She's showing you the truth." Lyria's exhausted voice came from behind them. She had insisted on joining them in the cockpit, supported by her children. "A history that both our peoples have forgotten." On the displays, a new message appeared in both human and Selenite script. "Sanctuary protocols activated. Welcome home." "Keepers." The ship accelerated toward the hidden station, guided by knowledge encoded in the newborn's DNA. As they approached, other hidden structures revealed themselves, an entire network of outposts that had remained invisible to human exploration. "We should be approaching the nearest human outpost in this sector," Nadia said, checking their position. "The UEC mining station on Helios 9. And now we face our greatest challenge," Jeff said solemnly. "Will you follow your protocol, Commander? Or will you help us restore what was lost?" The baby in his arms gurgled, her tiny hand still resting against Nadia's skin. Through the contact, Nadia felt certainty crystallize within her, a purpose that transcended her military oath. "There's a third option," she said, plotting a new course into the navigation system, one that honors both our people's past and future. As the ship changed direction, the stars seemed to shift around them, revealing pathways through space that no human vessel had traveled for thousands of years. Behind them, Veridis receded, its storms now visible as a perfect spiral pattern from orbit, like a fingerprint left by an ancient hand, waiting millennia to be recognized again. The United Earth Coalition outpost on Helios 9 bristled with defense systems, its angular architecture a stark contrast to the flowing lines of Selenite design. Nadia's ship, now a hybrid of human engineering and crystalline technology, maintained orbit at a safe distance while she prepared for the most difficult negotiation of her career. "They're hailing us," she announced, watching the communication panel pulse with an incoming signal. "I've modified our transponder to register as my original scout ship, but they'll detect the anomalies once we dock." Jev stood beside her, the newborn whom they had named Arya sleeping peacefully in his arms. The tiny being's skin pulsed with gentle luminescence, occasionally sending cascades of light through the ship's systems when she stirred. "You don't have to do this," Lyria said softly from the medical chair they had brought to the cockpit. Her recovery had been remarkably swift once Arya was born, the genetic bond between mother and child strengthening them both. "We could seek sanctuary at one of the hidden outposts." "And then what?" Nadia asked. "Hide for another 1,000 years while humans continue to expand, eventually finding those sanctuaries too?" "No, the cycle ends now." She activated the communication array, her commander's insignia prominently displayed. Helios 9 Control. This is Commander Nadia Chun of Scout Vessel Horizon, requesting emergency docking and immediate audience with Station Commander. The response was immediate. Commander Chun, your vessel was reported lost 3 weeks ago. Transmit verification codes and prepare for security scan. Acknowledged, Nadia replied, sending the codes while simultaneously activating the crystalline. Shield Thala had helped her develop a barrier that would mask the Selenai. Life signs without registering as a jamming device. What will you tell them? Thala asked, her young face serious beyond her years. The truth, Nadia said. Or at least, enough of it to matter. The docking procedure was tense, with multiple security scans that they deflected through careful modulation of the ship's crystal network. When they finally secured in the auxiliary bay, a full security detail awaited them, led by a stern-faced woman Nadia recognized from briefings. Station Commander Vega, Nadia said, stepping off the ship alone as they had planned. Thank you for receiving me. Commander Chun, Vega responded, her eyes narrowing at Nadia's appearance. The weeks on Veritas had changed her hair, now held strands of silver, and her eyes reflected light differently, subtle effects of prolonged exposure to crystal resonance. Your disappearance caused quite a stir, especially with what you've discovered. Nadia maintained a neutral expression. And what exactly do you think I've discovered, Commander? Vega dismissed her security team with a gesture, waiting until they were alone before continuing. Our long-range scans detected the energy surge on Veritas. That pattern matches classified records from first contact scenarios dating back 3 centuries. Her voice lowered. The Selenai have returned, haven't they? The question caught Nadia off guard. You know about them? A thin smile crossed Vega's face. The highest levels of the Coalition have always known. The question was never if they existed, but when they would re-emerge. She stepped closer. Show me. Inside the ship, Jev and Lyria had prepared themselves for this moment. When Nadia returned with Commander Vega, they stood proudly, no longer hiding their true nature. Arya remained in Lyria's arms, partially shielded but visible. Vega stopped in the doorway, her composed demeanor slipping for the first time. Extraordinary, she whispered. After all these years? Commander Vega has something to show us, Nadia explained to the others. Something that changes everything we thought we knew. In her private quarters, Vega accessed a secure database that required her genetic signature to unlock. The files that appeared were ancient historical records, scientific analyses, and most surprisingly, diplomatic communications between early human space explorers and Selenai representatives. The Convergence Protocol, Vega explained, displaying documents bearing both human and Selenai symbols. Established after our first formal contact, then classified and buried when the Selenai disappeared from known space. Disappeared? Jev questioned. We were driven into hiding by human aggression. Not humanity's aggression, Vega corrected. A splinter faction within our own governance. The same faction that has spent centuries suppressing evidence of your existence while expanding mining operations into your ancestral territories. The revelation stung them all. Nadia reviewed the historical documents, recognizing patterns that matched the memories Arya had shared with her, moments of cooperation followed by betrayal, not by entire civilizations, but by those who sought power within them. The protocol was designed to be reactivated upon confirmation of Selenai re-emergence, Vega continued. But it requires something specific, a genetic key that would prove the legitimacy of both parties. All eyes turned to Arya, who stirred in her mother's arms, tiny fingers reaching toward the display. Where her skin met the screen, the ancient symbols rearranged themselves, forming new patterns that pulsed with recognition. She is the key, Lyria said proudly. As is Nadia? Me? Nadia questioned. Jev placed a hand on her shoulder. The memories Arya showed you weren't random. Your bloodline descends from the original human negotiators who worked with our ancestors. Your genetic structure contains markers that respond to our resonance, an inheritance designed to ensure our peoples would recognize each other when the time came. Vega nodded in confirmation. Your assignment to Veritas wasn't coincidence. Commander Chun, those of us who maintain knowledge of the protocol have been placing descendants like you in positions where contact might occur, waiting for this moment. Over the following days, a careful dance of diplomacy unfolded. Vega contacted her superiors through secure channels, while Nadia and the Seleni prepared their case. Arya grew stronger daily, her presence activating dormant systems throughout the station that had been installed centuries ago, waiting for this reunion. When the Coalition diplomatic vessel finally arrived, Nadia stood with Jev and his family as representatives of both worlds. The Seleni had donned traditional ceremonial attire that Thala and Kor had helped recreate from genetic memory-flowing garments embedded with crystal filaments that caught the light and transformed it into patterns that told their peoples. Story. In the station's conference chamber, high-ranking officials from Earth met the Seleni with a mixture of awe and trepidation. Arya, now nestled in a crystalline carrier that amplified her natural resonance, became the center of attention, living proof of what humanity had forgotten. The repository keeper's birth has awakened the ancient network, Jev explained to the assembled dignitaries. Outposts and sanctuaries that have remained hidden for centuries are now visible to those who know how to look. Within them lie technologies and knowledge that our ancestors preserved, gifts intended for a time when our peoples could stand as equals. The Coalition representatives exchanged glances. The implications clear. Access to such advanced technology would transform human capabilities overnight. But there would be a price. In exchange, Lyria continued, we ask for recognition of our sovereign territories and protection from exploitation. The crystal worlds are not to be mined. They are living repositories of our shared history. Nadia stepped forward. As a descendant of the original protocol signatories and witness to the repository keeper's birth, I formally invoke the Convergence Protocol and stand as guarantor for both parties. Her declaration sent murmurs through the human delegation. One official leaned forward. And if we refuse these terms? Then you gain nothing, Nadia replied evenly. The Seleni network remains hidden, activated only for those who carry the proper genetic markers. And you lose the opportunity to correct a historical wrong that has limited human development for centuries. The negotiations extended for days, with Nadia serving as the bridge between worlds. During quiet moments, she and Jev found themselves drawn together, their connection deepening beyond diplomatic necessity. One evening, as they watched the stars from the observation deck, his fingers intertwined with hers. Your people have a saying, he said softly, that the stars guide us home. And where is home now? Nadia asked. Jev's gaze shifted from the stars to her face. Perhaps home isn't a place, but a connection. A resonance between beings who recognize something essential in each other. The formal signing of the renewed Convergence Protocol took place on the bridge of Nadia's transformed ship. The document acknowledged the ancient partnership between humans and Seleni, establishing protected zones around crystal worlds, while creating exchange programs for knowledge and technology. At its center was a provision for a new joint governance council, with representatives from both species. As Nadia watched the officials press their palms to the crystal-embedded document, formally binding their genetic signatures to the agreement, she felt a profound sense of completion. Beside her, Thala and Kor watched with wide eyes as their people emerged from shadows into a new era. Will you return with us to the sanctuary? Lyria asked her when the ceremony concluded. Your connection to Arya makes you family now. Nadia looked at Jev, whose silver eyes held a question of their own. Their connection had grown into something neither had expected, a resonance that transcended diplomatic necessity or physical attraction, something etched into the very structure of their beings. "My assignment with the Coalition has concluded," Nadia said, glancing at Commander Vega, who nodded in confirmation. "I've been reassigned as human liaison to the Selenai sanctuaries. And what about your home?" Thela asked innocently. "Will you miss Earth?" Nadia thought of her sterile quarters on various outposts. The years of following orders without question. The emptiness she had never been able to name until she found these refugees on a toxic world. "I think," she said, reaching for Jev's hand, feeling the now familiar resonance flow between them, "that I've finally found it." As their ship departed Helios 9, a small fleet of previously hidden Selenai vessels decloaked around them, their crystal hulls catching starlight in magnificent patterns. Ahead lay the sanctuary, where others of Lyria and Jev's people awaited news of the protocol's restoration. Arya, growing stronger daily, gurgled happily in her crystal cradle. Her tiny hands reached toward the viewscreen, with the approaching sanctuary gleamed home to an ancient people in the beginning of a new chapter in the cosmic story of two civilizations bound by stars, separated by fear and reunited by a single act of compassion on a storm-ravaged world. On the navigation console, a message appeared in both human and Selenai script. "Convergence protocol active. New coordinates established." Nadia plotted the course with certainty. No longer a lost commander, but a bridge between worlds. As the ship accelerated into the shimmering pathway between stars, she realized that sometimes the longest journeys home began with the simplest of questions. "If we fix your shuttle, can Mama sleep inside?" And sometimes the answer changed everything.